Classics is sponsored by WCBE 90.5 FM, Columbus, Ohio, and is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to shows online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Mary Yerina.
And this is Cinema Classics. And boy, let's be classic here. Let's talk about classic couture. And Mary, we have a film that is called
Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris.
And I want to thank you so much for tipping me off to it. I knew it was coming, but when you request to do one, I'm on target, and I say, all right, I can see this, that. She's absolutely. So, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, throwback.
It is definitely a throwback, not only in the time in which the film is set, which is the late 1950s, post-World War II London, but also just the charm of the story and the goodness and the good heart of the lead character, and how she's so hopeful even in the face of less than ideal circumstances in life. She never loses that hope and that goodness.
Yeah.
And you just leave the theater charmed.
I'll tell you, how cynical have I become to be surprised that we should have this. You know, I mean, is that how far we've advanced since 1957? My goodness.
I'm not sure we've advanced very far, but it was a wonderful reminder, you know, of the goodness that you can find in people.
Well, she, Ada, played quite well by Leslie Manville, who, by standards that I have grown to know, probably won't be nominated.
Probably not, but this is really her film.
Yeah.
She carries this film in the character of Ada. I think she's in every scene.
Yeah, you're right.
And it is the fulcrum of all the other characters, and in a way, all their destinations in the film.
Yeah, you're right. Some people will remember her, Leslie Manville, currently, right, as Queen Margaret in The Crown.
Yes.
Okay.
They also may remember her from The Phantom Thread,
Better
also
connection.
a haute couture
Yes.
film where she was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress.
Yes, thank you. And as I remember, perhaps a similar role to what Isabelle Huppert plays in this, kind of the tough overlord of the business.
Very similar. I would agree with that.
Very good. Yeah, that's a good connection. I've liked her because I've seen her in Mike Leigh films.
Mm-hmm.
And she's always been outstanding, and you're right. This is her moment. And boy, couldn't think of anybody better than, say, Betty White. Just that she looks like Betty White. Betty White does not have the chops.
No.
Or did not have the chops.
I couldn't see Betty White in this role,
No,
but Leslie Manville has that same lovely effervescence in her personality
Yes,
that really
yeah.
shines through in this role.
Mary, basically, she's going to Paris to buy a gown, right?
Yeah, she's a charwoman or a cleaning woman
Yeah.
in London. She has multiple clients that she serves throughout the day, and one of her clients, played by Anna Chancellor, has this beautiful couture Dior dress that she bought, presumably for one of her children's weddings. And Ada just falls in love with this dress and the idea of what it must feel
Yes.
like to wear this dress. And she puts in her mind the dream of saving enough money through multiple means in order to go to Paris and buy a 500 quid frock, as she calls it. And through a series of events with a couple of stumbling blocks along the way, she actually does make it to Paris and makes it to the house of Dior and puts down her money to buy a dress.
In the clip that we saw, that will be attached actually to our site, he comments that today it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, the part of being haute couture is that the dress is made for the individual woman or man these days who would wear it, and it's all done by hand. It's cut by hand, it's sewn by hand, all the detail is done by hand. So a frock like that would cost a lot of money today in terms of materials and the
Yeah.
handcrafting and the time that it would take and the talent it would take to make it.
Yeah, and if you're interested in it, the film has some very good tracking shots inside where they are sewing,
Yes.
meticulously taken care of. It's like, I liked it very much, the depiction of the art and
Right.
the care.
Right, and the art that, even though there may be a designer at the head of the house, the dresses are actually made by an army
Yes.
of very talented
Yeah.
individuals. And even though this film is nowhere near the same theme or feel as the film we reviewed earlier this year, The Outfit, where we had
Yes.
Mark Rylance playing the cutter.
Good one.
The skill and the craft that goes into making custom clothes is equally reflected, but just in very different ways in both films.
And we could add a third that has really no relevance, and we could add a third that has really no relevance, which would be the House of Gucci.
No relevance whatsoever.
Except that mystique, the awe with which all of us come to names like Dior and Gucci. It's there. It's there in the film.
It certainly is there, and to a certain extent, I felt, even though Audrey Hepburn was the muse of Hubert de Givenchy in her wonderful films where you think about the beautiful clothes she wore, specifically Sabrina and Breakfast at Tiffany's, they do have an actress, a Portuguese actress, Alba Baptista.
Yeah, plays Natasha.
Who plays Natasha,
Oh,
who
yeah.
is the muse of Dior and
Yes.
the face of Dior.
Yeah.
And I felt a little bit of homage to Audrey Hepburn and Givenchy
All right.
in that role.
There is, I think, a direct reference to Audrey Hepburn in this, and I know you're going to know the minute I talk about it. And this would be Andre.
Oh, yes,
So they even ride in a Vespa.
they do. A little nod to Roman holiday.
And this guy, they've got him dolled up looking just like Gregory Peck, or at least evoking.
He did evoke Gregory Peck. It's a French actor played by Lucas Bravo, who
Yes.
many of you may recognize from the series Emily in Paris.
Yeah, right, and I haven't seen that, but that's apparently so, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, he's a hunky guy who does okay. He's not given a lot in this film other than to be the handsome romantic.
And also, I think plays the surrogate son of Ada once they're connected in Paris. He plays, the character of Andre is what I would say the accountant or CFO
I know,
for
right.
the House of Dior.
Right.
And he invites her to stay with him because his sister is out of town and he has an extra bedroom, and she's a cash-paying customer, which, as we learn, the House of Dior doesn't necessarily have all their clients paying, which is ironic because Ada, the cleaning woman, doesn't have all of her clients paying her
Oh, isn't
either.
it wonderful connection that one lady who had the dress that sparked Ada's imagination wasn't paying her either.
Wasn't paying her, and then just said, when she asked about being paid and settling her account, because she's trying to get to Paris
Yes.
to buy this dress, she basically tells her she's going to cut her hours. So you're just like, really?
Yeah. And then we learn, as you said, from the Dior people, that the wealthy sometimes forget to pay or just don't pay.
Well, and let's not forget we're in post-World War II Europe, which is still recovering from a lot of devastation. And you actually see that in the people she encounters in Paris, in terms of the buildings that they live in aren't as nice as I'm sure they were before Paris
Sure.
was occupied by the Germans, and any bombing that might have taken place. So you kind of see that people are still trying to live that facade of a very wealthy life, but they don't necessarily have the means.
And
so.
as the French would do, they're out revolting on the streets. And
Yes.
I think this.
Which made me laugh because having been a student in France
Yeah.
during my college days, the unions would, especially the public unions, would strike at the drop of a hat. I was actually in Paris during the garbage collection strike.
Oh.
So to see her get off the plane and be walking the streets of Paris with all this trash around, I was like, I know exactly how that feels.
Oh, excellent, yeah. Now tell me about Ada and what happens to her when she gets to Paris.
Well, she has a lot of helpers along the way who help her get to the house of Dior, because she really goes to Paris without a plan.
Oh, yeah.
And she gets to the house of Dior. The gatekeeper, Claudine, played by Isabelle Hubert, is trying to get rid of her because they're about to have one of their fashion shows, which back in the day was done in private salons, either at the designer's place or even in a private home. And yet again, another character, the Marquis, is charmed by her and invites her to be his guest to watch the show. She does watch the show next to a very haughty woman, and even back in the 50s, a very goth, disgruntled teenage daughter. But the very wealthy woman, Madame Avalon, is in no way, shape, or form going to let Ada get the best dress of the show.
And I love the fact that with the Marquis and with his really being fascinated. With his really being fascinated by Ada, that it's a rough road.
Yeah.
It looks like romance might be on the horizon. It's not always so. And I also love, before she gets to Dior, her interaction with the three guys.
The three guys in the train station, yeah.
Isn't
the
that
three
cute?
older men who
Yeah.
obviously spend their evenings drinking, but they were equally charmed by her, and one of them escorts her the next day to the house of Dior and wishes her well.
Yeah, and there are a couple of acts of kindness here that I think characterize the film.
Mm-hmm.
What you had described, the generosity of heart. And the first one is how she helps, Natasha?
Mm-hmm.
Who is it? Does she fall?
Natasha is late for the fashion show
Yeah.
when Ada arrives at the house of Dior, and she trips and falls, loses her purse, but she doesn't know that and runs in.
Yes.
And so Ada grabs the purse and just walks into the house of Dior on the red carpet and finds Natasha running up the stairs.
Yes.
And returns the purse to her.
Oh,
And then Natasha returns the favor
Oh,
by giving
yeah.
her a ride
Yeah.
to the Andre's apartment.
and then we have another act of kindness at the end.
Yes.
So it's kind of like tying it together, and that's really the motif for Ada. She is just really kind.
She's a kind, hopeful person, and we need that even today. And we've not talked yet about the dresses to the extent that we should.
I know, Mary, but what choice do our listeners have then?
Well, I think they should join us online for a double take.
Yeah, right. So just go to the podcast experience, and you'll hear more. If you really want to hear more, we'll be there.
Yes, we will.